Yo, what up? This is Adell Henderson, editor-in-chief, Respect Magazine, saying what's up, and I'm checking in with Day One Radio because I've been down with these cats since day one, man.
The business.
Welcome back to another episode, another installment of Day One Radio, right here on ablradio.com. That's Art, Beats, and Lyrics Radio to be exact. Make sure you download the very free, very accessible smartphone app for your iPhone and Android devices. And also make sure you check out the entire Day One Radio archive at day1radio.com and look us up in the iTunes podcast. My name is Maurice Garland. I'm one of your co-hosts, and to my right I have
the world famous BP, Brandon LSK. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, man? Shout out to Mad Fresh Daddy. She out there, you know what I'm saying, doing the parent thing tonight.
Right, for sure. And happy holidays, man. Thank y'all for listening this week, man. As y'all celebrate, with your family and whatnot. And we gotta, we don't. By the time you guys hear this, it'll be on newsstands. So this can be a little extra stocking stuffer for you. The 25th issue of Respect Magazine, and we got the editor-in-chief, Mr. Adell Henderson, in the building. What's cracking, bro?
Yes, sir, man. What's good, man? It took me a minute to get here.
Yeah, man. Michigan's finest. What's up?
Man, that Atlanta traffic like this late, man.
Oh, yeah. Atlanta traffic get crazy out there, man, because everybody don't know where they're going yet.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I feel like people are slaves to technology, man. I feel like you can think to yourself, I should probably go that way.
Man.
But the GPS said, man, this is the quickest way.
Man.
And we do it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
That's real talk. I mean, I just haven't, I've been here in Atlanta 6 years now. I still haven't really put in that time to really just figure out all of the little back ways, the back roads. I don't even know if it's set up that way to where
it is, but I'm still tripping that this man has been down here 6 years, and I just actually had a face-to-face human interaction with him for the first time months ago.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Man.
That's crazy.
It's kind of crazy, dude. Off the radar, man. It's like I've been just so off the radar. It's just a different lifestyle, man. It's kind of crazy, man. You're talking about, just the whole parenting thing and the things, the type of things that make you absent from situations that normally it just wouldn't. Man, I came into Atlanta, from LA, and it's just like I didn't even tell nobody I was leaving. I just showed up.
Yeah.
And just kept it that way. Still got the LA number, the whole nine. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? P.O. box out there still. People drive my property thinking I'm still out that way, man. But it really is just it's been like a reset, type of situation, man. Cats ain't as young as we used to be, man. So it's like, all right, what's this new chapter all about?
For sure. Speaking of chapters, you know what I'm saying? You are the EIC at Respect Magazine, man.
Yeah, man.
One of the dopest magazines I could say on newsstands right now, man. Because, even from its inception, it stood out because, it kind of I guess, went back to the quote-unquote essence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It focused on the photography, the style, nostalgia, but also at the same time being modern, man. So for people that aren't all the way familiar with Respect Magazine, bring them up to speed about it, man.
Man, Respect Magazine is definitely a last of a dying breed. One of the last print publications that you can still find on the newsstands. We come out 5 times a year. The publication is based out of New York. And it's the essence of it, like you were saying. It started off as a pure photo journal to help to document hip hop culture. Our founding publisher, his vision was to really put the attention on the actual photographers. The ones that were really,
shout out to Johnny.
Yeah, that was really documenting the culture because, as far as writers, a lot of times, writers, they get a lot of shine. We get a lot of shine. A lot of times, our names that even be on the the cover of the magazine, for some of the bigger publications. But the photographers, they really don't get it unless you're like a Annie Leibovitz or something like that, or Jonathan Mannion. But I remember first seeing the issue, first seeing the first couple of issues, and was just like, wow.
Yeah. And
just to think that photos are that powerful. And this is pre-Instagram, this is, 6 years ago. And just to think like, man, hold on a second, a magazine that's primarily based off of photos and photographers telling these stories of how these pictures came to be. And, sure enough, man, it was a formula, that worked. And here we are, in our 25th issue and, still rocking.
Dope, man. So it's like, this is a magazine that, a lot of work goes into like each issue, which I'm assuming why, like, it comes out in a non-traditional way. Like most magazines, people got accustomed to them coming out like every month, or every 2 months. You guys usually drop between like 4 to 6 issues a year. Like, is that by design to make sure that, you're getting the best product out each time instead of trying to, keep up with the Joneses, so to speak?
Well, I mean, I yes and no. Okay. I think a huge part of it, has to do with it, starting off as an independent,
right,
publication. And, at the time, 6 years ago, we were still seeing a lot of magazines out, and they were still very present. So when you have a brand new magazine, just trying to go ahead and break into the industry, and, it was familiar in terms of the essence of it, but at the same time, different in terms of the format. I think it's starting off slow, is something that is very common, with many magazines. There's several publications I've, been a part of, and, it started off slow, and a lot of times they've grown. But the crazy thing is, man, 2008, things got a little different in the market overall. So it's one thing to, start off slow and grow, but hell, after 2008, it's like, man, can I just live? Can I stick around? And it's crazy to see how, a lot of the publications we grew up knowing and loving don't even exist anymore.
Right.
On the newsstands.
Right. They only exist in our closets and boxes at my mama house,
Man. And online in some cases.
That's crazy. Digital covers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's still kind of mind blowing to me.
Most definitely. So how did you get involved with Respect?
As you mentioned, Jonathan Reingold, who was the founder of Respect Magazine, we, go, back to that Respect publication. I mean, that Harris publication family tree, where XXL was founded. And, that was one of the first publications that I wrote for, about to age myself, back in 1998. That's when.
So you was there from the first issue with the Master P and Jay-Z?
Nah, the first I wasn't. Let me see. I think the first one was probably 97 though, right? 90. Yeah, it was like 96, 97.
Yeah, late
97. It was like Raekwon and was it Raekwon and Jay-Z?
No, it was Master P and Jay-Z in the first one. Then it was D'Angelo and Goody Mob.
Yeah.
And then I think they put the Raekwon.
It was 97. Yeah, it might have been 97.
Yeah,
I think it was
97.
summer of 97.
I think it was, and I remember seeing it for the first time.
Me too.
I was still in college, and was like, wow, that was crazy. And I sort of had aspirations to be a writer at the time, and I was doing some things independently, but wasn't quite sure what the journey was going to be like. But even prior to writing for XXL though, like my first published piece was in a publication that no longer exists. Rap Pages.
Rap Pages. Shout out to Larry Flint.
Remember Rap Pages. Rap Sheet.
I wrote for Rap Sheet back in the day, and yeah, man, it was just it was a beautiful thing, coming into journalism during a time where you really had to be a writer. Yeah, you really had to be a credible writer.
Hell yeah.
Because it was some beast in the industry back then, man. Some beast. So but yeah, like I said, got to start at XXL, and we, me and the, some of the team cats that I came in with, some of the cats that welcomed me in, Daytwan Thomas, that's my brother. Met him back in '98. Black Spot. They were, music editors over at Double XL at the time, and we had a mutual friend, and we ended up connecting and hitting it off, and been rocking ever since. And like I said, spent quite a bit of time over doing some things at Harris. Came back and we did King magazine,
the illest magazine ever,
the illest men's magazine ever. You know what I'm saying? We left the digital world after things started crashing, and Daytwan got greenlit to do King, and a year and a half later we got the green light to do Rides magazine. And during that time that's where I really met Jonathan. He was a long time advertising guy over at Double XL, and ultimately worked his way into the associate publisher position. And longer story short, he ended up leaving once things started getting funky in the publishing world, and started his publication. And at that point it was just family business,
right?
When we started to get the calls. And that's the cool thing about just the legacy of the editors and writers and cats that work on the photos for Respect magazine. I mean, it's like a family reunion, because for the most part it's a bunch of cats that we were all rocking in the Double XL days.
What was it like working at Double XL back in the formative years? Because at the time, like the Source was still kind of running things. You know what I'm saying? In the hip hop print world, you had Vibe out there, and I remember seeing XXL for the first time, and something about it was like, damn, this just looks extra glossy. You know what I'm saying? This is like a different magazine. Then like when I saw Master P on the front cover, I was like, and they put P on their cover? And then I'm opening it up and I'm like, oh shit, they were talking to people that I actually listen to, just not people from New York. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what was it like working there in the formative years, man?
Dude, it was a beautiful thing, because you hit a key, point, being not from New York. I wasn't from New York. I'm a, Flint, Michigan native. And the cool thing about being from the Midwest, we grew up listening to everything. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a signature sound, because we were like these mutts. We sort of, grew up on, that East Coast wave, and then the West Coast came, and then the South. And then, we had like a few cats that was representing from the Midwest, but it took us a while to really get our identity.
Right.
And so the cool thing about once I started going to New York and, connecting with, my team, man, when I tell you, they were like, oh, hold up a second. All right, cool. You had a cat, cat basically vouched for you. We'll go ahead and give you a shot. Where you from? What kind of music you listen to? Oh, shit. They was like, oh, hell yeah. Oh, you can have all of this shit from the South, all this shit from the West Coast. Like, dude, that's all you. And like a lot of, writers at the time, we started off doing music reviews. Yep. And I was like, hold up a second. Like, this is stuff I know, I'm familiar with. Like, my very first pieces I wrote for Double XL, they gave me 2 music reviews. They gave me one, which was Ghetto Mafia.
Ah, all right. Which one? The On the Grind album?
It was Ooh Ah Ghetto Mafia.
Yeah. The On the Grind album.
Yeah, On the Grind. They gave me that for an album review, and they gave me Cell Block Records compilation. I know Brandon gonna light up over there. I know Brandon.
The first Cell Block was on.
The Cell Block compilation, and it had like Ant Bank tracks. MC Breed had a track on there, and that's my hometown, the homies. So I was like, oh man. So they looking at me like, hold on, you like this stuff? I was like, yeah, give me that. And it was so dope because and like I said, I already got my feet wet at that time. Writing my first piece with Rap Pages, and that was exciting. And then right after that, you remember back in the day though, you write something, you ain't gonna see it on a newsstand for like months,
right?
And months, right? So I do these, 2 reviews, and I'm thinking like, man, I'm feeling kind of good about myself. Like, that was real cool. I'm like, man, I ain't gonna get a check for like 4 months, but whatever,
right?
And I remember being in New York. New York, they got newsstands on every other corner, like in Manhattan, right? And I remember that day seeing that issue.
Excellent feeling.
For the first time.
Yeah.
You talking about an excellent feeling. Hold up a second. But the issue that it was, dude, the greatest day ever
in hip hop.
Cover.
Yeah.
That had all of the rap cats up in Harlem on the stoop. You know what I'm saying? what was it like? It was like a
redo of Gordon Parks
and
photo.
Gordon Parks shot it.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that my first piece would be in that issue. Man, I was going crazy.
I still have the poster of that still in the plastic.
Man,
Yeah.
when I tell you every single newsstand I stopped by, I picked it up. Yeah, that's me right there. Yeah, that's me right there. But that was the entry into. But it was the great thing about Double XL back in those days. It was like it was so fresh. You know, the Source, they were, you know, like, you know, hands down. I mean, they were the hip hop Bible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the cool thing about you know, coming with a new publication at that time, it's like, man, let's just keep throwing stuff against the wall and see what stick. You know, you ain't necessarily coming out the gate trying to compete and take the crown. So that left a lot of, you know, freedom to do just some cool things, you know, and you know, eventually just see what's gonna go ahead and stick, and you just continue to evolve. But those days were like so cool, man.
Yeah,
those days were so cool, just going through those hallways and, you know, and just to. Man, it was great. Like, I remember, like, even Honey magazine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, around that time where I was coming around, Honey had just started, and I remember seeing, you know, Kira DeMayo, like, you know, in her little corner, you know, doing her little thing, you know, and it was just dope because we had mutual friends, and, you know, I knew her from afar, and I was really happy and excited for her to get that publication, and then just to see what she's doing now.
Right.
You know, over at Ebony. It's it's pretty exciting.
That's super dope. So, yo, let's talk about this issue, man. We got the golden cover, letting you know.
Who was that on the cover, though, man?
The greatest rapper of all time. Tupac Shakur.
Not according to Billboard magazine.
Tupac Shakur. We'll have to talk about that off the air. I got a funny Tony story about that. Got the GOAT Tupac on the cover, and, you know, you guys chronicle all 25 covers of the magazine, as well as you got, you know, stories from Motion Family, Combat Jack, and all of that. So what was the thought process going into this issue? Because both of us, you know, being former editors, Maurice being a former editor, like, dude, people think the anniversary issue is to just throw it together, man. That stuff, it's a lot of thought that goes into these joints, man. So what was kind of the process of putting it together? Dude,
I mean, that's funny that you say that, man. To me, every single one of these issues that I've worked on, especially as editor-in-chief, man, it's like chess games, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's so many, you know, just cheat codes and you know, like, there's so many layers you know, to every single one of these, you know, issues that, you know, I've been, you know, leading, and it's no different with the this 25th issue, you know, having Pac on the cover. I'm not sure, you know, if y'all really remember, like, all the conspiracy theories?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, especially based around the number 25.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's going to go over a lot of people's heads initially, right? Remember that?
Yeah.
He was 25 when he died.
Exactly.
You know, and it was saying, like, all right, he's like, you know, he's calling himself Machiavelli. He's on the Machiavelli color like Jesus, and Jesus, you know, rose from the dead after 7 days, 2 + 5.
Yeah.
And it was just like all of these different combinations,
stuff,
right?
Yeah.
But when you think about, you know, just commemorating, you know, the 25th issue, we you know, decided early that we wanted to do something special. We decided that, you know, we wanted to feature all the covers. You know, this is our third Tupac cover. You know, which is very appropriate, us taking it back to the essence, because, you know, our debut issue was a split cover, one being Tupac, one being Jay-Z. And it's just amazing to think about, too. You know, this issue itself is hitting the newsstands in late December, but, you know, it's going to go ahead and make its way, you know, on the newsstands and stick around to early March. And it's kind of, you know, me cheating again, because I know that, you know, 2016 is, you know, the 20th anniversary of Tupac's death, and there's going to be a lot of covers. So it's, you know, it's me being, you know, kind of, you know, messed up as an editor and being like, oh, I got it first.
The one thing that I always liked about Respect was the behind the scenes stories. Like, people in journalism historically remember the Time photos and the Sports Illustrated photos, but hip hop never really had that. Closest we had to that was the posters you pull out a word up and write on and put on your wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the magazine kind of documented it, like you were saying, from a different perspective. And I know that existed before you got on board. But what's your take on that, of talking to these photographers and kind of getting their stories behind these iconic shoots that people remember? Oh, I know that picture, or I know this picture, but they don't know anything of how it happened.
Man, it's the coolest thing, man. And once again, I give so much credit to, to the guys in the beginning. Jonathan Reingold, with the vision, and Chris X, who was there executing, and Sally Berman, who was there executing. I mean, it was a phenomenal vision, and just to think, here we are 6 years later, and Instagram is like this phenomenon. People are just all into just images. And, they say, a photo is worth 1,000 words. And like, wow, how cool is it to establish a platform, to really help share these stories behind a lot of these iconic images. And I think it's great. And, even going back to how we started and, this particular issue, this 25th issue, we kind of went back to the essence and, it made it a lot more photo heavy. Because the first, earlier issues, it wasn't a whole lot of words. It was, just more about these big.
That's what I always
photos.
thought. I was like, dude, even being quarterly, y'all gonna run out of photos at some point.
But you know what? We won't, because, dude, there's still so many photographers, just coast to coast, who've been getting it, that are still under the radar. I've had these kind of discussions with, different photo editors, and I'm like, that's the cool thing about Instagram is you find cats. And it's like, whoa, where did you come from? And just think, how many years has hip hop been so biased, when it came to just like the focal point being New York, and then the focal point being LA, and then the focal point eventually being, Miami and Atlanta, Houston, then Atlanta. It's like, Brandon and I, worked on a piece, years ago for Rides Magazine that, I enlisted B because I was like, I need help with this package. I was like, man, we do all of this stuff for Rides Magazine. We got all these crazy cars, all throughout the country. And one of the things that really stood out to me was that when it came to California, the immediate thought was lowriders, or Bentleys or Beamers, because they always thought LA. And for people who aren't aware, the Bay Area, the essence and the taste when it comes to automobiles, it's total opposite. Like
scrapers,
cats would get like an old school Monte Carlo over a Bentley. Like they like any day. Like I'm good on that. This is what's popping up here. And Brandon and I, we did like this big, Bay Area, just 10-page, just I don't know, just a
extravaganza,
and we hit like so many different layers, about, Bay Area car culture, and, just based off of, the type of things I was interested in doing there. I mean, you see, me doing the same type of things, respect, even with, grabbing up Maurice to, do the, 10-year anniversary patchwork piece. It's like, who else is gonna do it? Like, no one else was doing that Bay Area package. No one else is doing this patchwork piece. And it's like, these are all amazing, just different areas in hip hop culture that I feel like, man, we need to be documenting as much as possible. And I think that now in print, with it being such a limited thing, and and it's so redundant in terms of the type of coverage that you get, I'm like, man, what can we do that's timeless, and fly? And, these are the type of things that I look, to bring to the table, as editor-in-chief.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up because, like you said, like that 2008 year was like rough for print everywhere. And then it's like, it went on a downturn and all the digital stuff started popping up. But now what I'm seeing, though, is in some ways, like print isn't like dead. Everybody's like, print is dead. But like you're starting to see a lot more books. Mm-hmm. You're starting to see a lot more, quarterly like magazines, with, a lot of content in them. So like at this point, do you think that, you can stop saying that like print is dead, because I'm starting to see, you know, print being utilized in more innovative ways outside of just, all right, we're going to put out a magazine every month and put the most popular person in the world on the cover if they say yes.
The cool thing is now, well, the challenge is to just to be better.
Yeah.
Period. As long as you put out anything dope, people going to gravitate towards it. Period. You know, and once again, that's the challenge of print right now. It's like, okay, you know, what are you going to do that's competitive, that's innovative? I had a conversation, you know, just last week with, you know, one of our, you know, younger writers about, you know, doing an obvious cover choice, you know, for the next issue. And I'm like, okay, you want to do a cover based off an artist that you really like, you really respect, and you think other people respect. They have a release date around the time the next issue is supposed to come out. Make that make sense. You know, even if the person is dope, it's like you have to make it make sense. You know, it's like, what's going to make us any different than anybody else is doing coverage on that particular artist at that particular time? You know, what's like, how are we going to compete with, you know, all of the different blog interviews, all of the different podcast interviews, all of the radio interviews is going to happen at that time? And that's assuming that the record don't get pushed.
Right.
Right. So it's just so different now. You know, it's just so different, you know, print wise. And that's why, you know, the challenge is to, you know, just really keep your ear to the street, pay attention to the culture, talking about, you know, different print outlets. I mean, you know, shout out to, you know, our double XL, you know, alumni, you know, and respect alumni, you know, Elliot Wilson, you know, for hardcover. You know, I just think, I think that's you know, him and Danielle, that's a brilliant concept. That's bringing a lot of attention to, you know, the publishing world, and you know, people are going to gravitate towards, you know, dope art or anything dope, you know. So I think, print's not dead. You know, it's just, you know, we just had to trim off the fat.
Yeah, that's definitely true. You mentioned, you know, one of the younger writers. Speak on, I mentor a lot of different people that want to get into on-camera stuff or writing or just media, period, man. And what you started early, what advice would you give somebody right now that's in college or in high school that knows they or thinks they want to be a writer? Because you don't know until you get in it for
right.
What advice would you give them on getting in the game and also getting better and maintaining?
One of the first things is, you know, finding someone who's already doing it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you physically have to be in the same place at the same time. That's the cool thing about social media. That's the cool thing about the internet. You know, people could be your mentors from afar and not even know it.
Right.
You know, just watching their movements. And that's the cool thing about, you know, people taking advantage of documenting things that's going on within their lifestyle. You know, it just opens us up to being able to see. And for me, it was that same exact way. I mean, I grew up in, you know, Flint, Michigan. I knew, you know, since I was a kid, though, that I was going to work in this industry. Didn't know how I was going to get there, but, you know, I paid attention to all of the different mediums that were accessible to me until I got to the point to where I was physically in the presence, you know, of people who had the information. And then once I got the information, I kept running with it. The frustrating thing about this new generation, I mean, it's like the microwave generation. They want everything quick, fast now. Everybody want to know what the, you know, what's the easiest way to do that? What's the quickest way I could, you know, get to this? And it's not about that. You know, it really is about, you know, just honing your skills, studying, you know, taking your time, you know, screwing up, you know, starting over, screwing up, starting over, meeting people, and just really watching the examples and just humbling yourself. You know, patience, you know, is big, and just really humbling yourself, and then understanding that it may not be for you. You know, if it's for you, then, you know, you do what you got to do to get it. But if not, you know, that's when you're going to go off and do something else.
Tight. You know what I'm saying? It's like at this point, you know, like respect is, you know, very image heavy. And we were talking about, you know, Instagram and social media and everything. Like, is it a thing where, you know, do you even bother trying to compete with that? You know, because I noticed that a lot of times, you know, cats in the media, especially in print, they find themselves running into a brick wall because they're trying to compete with something that updates every 0.5 seconds, and it's
man.
like, bro, I don't know if that's the fight that you want to be in, dog. You know,
I can't do it. I mean, it's just not, it's just not for me. I mean, I play around, on, Instagram, just based off of, I mean, it's just something that, I enjoy doing from time to time. Mm-hmm. I know one of the keys of, really growing, a following is, posting, being more consistent and, just, I don't know, just, making all these different strategic moves. I mean, I post what I want to post when I want to post it and, just because I think it's cool, whether it's something that, I just want to share. It started off with me doing like a lot of, throwback Thursdays, not necessarily, looking behind me, and not, thinking that there's anything ahead because there was a time where I never looked back. I never reflected. And there was a lot of moments that I missed out on being able to appreciate because I was just like always on to the next thing.
Yeah. People will, what we do, you're out and about a lot. You do a lot of cool things. People remind me about stuff all the time. I've completely forgotten.
No idea. There's certain 2006, don't remember. I mean, it's so many different moments, just over the years, but like all of 2006, I don't remember at all. But I mean, it's just so many of those things, and as I was mentioning before about being down here in Atlanta and taking so long to really see people. I think the first time I randomly ran into Brandon was in the airport.
Yeah,
so we was crossing paths,
and I don't think it was in Atlanta.
No. I think it was.
It was in Atlanta.
When I was out there, I was traveling with Monique.
I think that was in L.A.
You sure?
I think so.
I'm almost either way, but it was just like, for me, that was a new chapter. And the cool thing about, being in the space that, I've arrived to, I mean, I stopped like living out of a suitcase. I got a chance to, breathe a little bit, smell some roses, have a family now. And so at that point, it's when you stumble upon a picture and be like, man, I remember that. Yeah. And it's like, all right, man, let me go ahead and talk about that. This was like such a cool moment, and I'm talking about, I've been extremely fortunate in this industry to be able to get in, so young and do so much, I mean, I look back at certain pictures and be like, wow, I was like my first real interviews, being, 19 years old, interviewing Chuck D and Eazy-E. And Stevie Wonder, I mean, at 19, still in college, flying to LA on school money that they paid for, staying at the Lowe's and in Santa Monica. And then, just be like, man, Bernie Mac, Aaliyah, I mean, it's just crazy to, sit back and think about it, so now it's kind of cool to go back and, reflect on those things. But, I'm so excited about, moving forward. And in this chapter, my journey, my mission, I feel like, what was, something that was driven off of passion before is now driven off of purpose. Right. So it's like everything I do now is just so, strategic, right. So layered. And it's like, all right, we this, man, Motion Family, they killing it. And have been killing it. And they have so much information, so much insider information that we have no clue about. And nobody's even paying attention to them. But we pay attention to the visuals. We pay attention to the videos and the photos. But, man, let's go ahead and talk to these cats. Let's show people some of the things that we're familiar with that they do. And let's go ahead and just start the conversation. And hopefully, we could continue that conversation. And, that's exciting to me, right? Because it just opens up a different level of dialogue. And some of your favorite artists, man, they got stories that you would love to hear, and so many of us do.
Definitely. What's the science behind the duo cover thing?
For me, it's something that we kind of stumbled upon. The one that first, really, caught my attention and for us to say like, wow, that was kind of cool. Daytwan Thomas was editor-in-chief, and we were going back and forth on a particular issue, and YG and Mustard were killing it at that time, and we were doing our back and forth, and I was like, yo, yeah, it's time. Like, dude, they ready. You know, like they ready, like it's really time. And you know, and initially, you know, we started with YG, and you know, it opened up to like, man, YG and Mustard to be dope. And at that time, they were on tour, so it just turned into a thing that made sense, and you know, it popped. It was like their first, you know, cover look, and you know, an event. You know, obviously that summer that year, like they killed.
Yeah,
like they killed, and it's like nobody else was doing it, and that's another reason that made it dope. The next cover that really, you know, was cool. As far as like the duos, I think right after that was you know, Birdman and Young Thug, and it's so funny in this issue for the cover feature, which is a 22-page cover feature that, you know, has, you know, all of the different covers, you know, of the Respect catalog. One of the cats, Reggie Hawkins, who's you know, like a program director over at Hip Hop Nation. You know, we were just having a conversation about that particular issue. He was like, man, you know, it was that issue that started this whole conflict between Baby and Lil Wayne. You know what I'm saying? When y'all put them two on the cover together, that created the weirdness and the separation and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And he was just thinking like, man, you know, why did y'all do that? You know, we just, you know, just going back and forth shooting the shit. I was like, you know what? Actually, that wasn't really planned to happen that way. You know, like at that particular time, that shoot was supposed to be Baby, Young Thug, and Rich Homie Quan. Because at that time, they were doing the Rich Gang thing. Quan never showed up to the shoot. He never showed up. And so
it seems, and if you read the story, it seems like Young Thug was barely there too, because he ain't talk.
Yeah, you know, and it was just so interesting watching that dude. You know what I'm saying? Just watching him on set and just, you know, just his actions and reactions, because he's such a, you know, I don't want to call him weird or strange, but
interesting.
He's interesting. You know, he's very interesting, and you know, it's not like a knock or anything. It was just, you know, he had like this cool thing that was just him doing him. And, you know, in hindsight, it would appear as if like, okay, that was, man, all right, Baby's replacing Wayne, but that was never the case. You know, Quan didn't show up. It would have been dope to have Quan in there too. But, and from there, the one that, you know, after that, it was Daytwan grabbed up Yo Gotti,
Nipsey.
And Nipsey Hussle.
That was interesting.
And what was crazy about that, like I was listening to the interview, you know, and helping Daytwan, helping him transcribe, you know, because we was like some crazy deadline that came in really late. And I was like, man, I'm just listening to it like a fan.
Right.
And I was like, yo, this is such a dope concept, you know, because you won't really, you don't think about them two being on the cover together.
Right.
You know, I mean, two different, you know, sides of the world, two different backgrounds,
and you don't really think of them being on the cover of anything.
You know, but the conversation was so dope. I wish, you know, I was like, yo, dude, I was telling Day, I was like, you got to release this as like a podcast or something, because that exchange was so dope, you know, between them. They was just really spitting game. And once again, you only could do so much, you know, in the magazine, but it was just like a dope dialogue. And at that point, I was like, yo, that's it. I was like, you know, with print being so competitive, if we're going to still be on the newsstand, I'm like, man, the double, you know, artist on a cover, I mean, I just thought that was such a winning formula, especially when it's these sort of like odd couples that you don't expect together. And, you know, with my first issue as editor-in-chief, you know, I enlisted, you know, Mr. Brandon Peters, you know, to do this cover story, you know, with B.O.B. and Ty Dolla $ign. And, you know, one of the things that I want to do, you know, coming in, you know, sort of, you know, putting my stamp on, you know, this legacy was, I was like, man, I want to put some hip hop cats on the cover that's really artists, like true musicians who understand music, but not the nerd weird types to where, okay, nobody don't mess with them. I'm like, you know what? These are some cats that have had hits, that people recognize, but I don't think people really understand that these are real musicians though.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what, you know, the conversations that I was having with Brandon, you know, and I was like, man, I want you to really, you know, let's get into that. Let's talk about how much they're really big fans of music, because now, the general consensus of people who get into the hip hop game, that's not a requirement at all.
Right.
It's like, man, they don't even want to know the history.
Yeah, and it's ironic that, 2-3 months later, you got B.O.B. arguing with Atlantic because they won't support him. And then Ty Dolla $ign, they're pushing the Blase song, but that's just like the tip of the iceberg with that album.
Right.
Like, that album is extremely multi-layered across the board. I think he actually showed his depth in musicianship, like from acoustic song with Babyface. Like, who's doing that in 2015? You know what I mean?
But I think that's a huge responsibility for us as journalists, because we already know. I mean, the labels. I mean, they've been playing themselves, but they've had so much power over the years, to where we had to include them in a lot of these conversations. Now, artists being able to do things on their own, and even with journalists being able to create their own platforms and not, have to be within these restraints of a machine of some popular publication. I mean, we could get these dope stories out. I mean, that's what's exciting to me. That's what I appreciate about, my higher ups giving me the freedom, to sort of, just do the type of things that I think would be relevant. And what's cool is, it's been timely. When that B.O.B. Ty Dolla $ign issue dropped, we closed the issue, and as the ink is starting to dry, they make the announcements for Powerhouse, which is the huge summer concert in L.A. Who's on the bill? Ty Dolla $ign and B.O.B. They make the announcements like the next week of Summer Jam, monstrous, festival summer concert in New York. Who's on the bill? Ty Dolla $ign, B.O.B. All while that issue is on the newsstand. So I mean, and that made me feel like, okay, I guess I guess we're in the pocket, doing something all right.
Another timely one was that Future and Mike Will, because like we keep saying, like with magazines, you got to be a visionary because you don't write the stuff and then it just goes to print and then it gets at the newsstand the next day. Like you got to be thinking like months ahead,
dude. And it's like, how many Future covers have we seen? After the Respect Future cover.
Yeah.
And once again, I would love to take the credit. I would love to. I mean, I feel like a musician in that sense of, just being a creative and just sort of the creativity just like flowing through me, and I'm just doing what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. I just remember paying attention to what was going on musically. I remember paying attention to what was going on culturally, paying attention to the fact that, 2015, wow, that's 20 years after 1995. It was 1995 that Outkast was on a stage in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, Paramount Theater.
You know what I'm saying? Getting booed, for winning.
South got something to say.
You know what I'm saying? There's Source Awards, and it's like, Andre, those classic, words, hey, the South got something to say. Here we are 20 years later, and that Atlanta sound is what's ruling the sound waves, even in New York, and who were the people at that particular time? If it was any leaders of that Southern Atlanta sound, it was Future, and Mike Will. That sound that they mastered, that we were hearing that everywhere. We were hearing that everywhere. And so, and then, Future, was putting out, a gang of music. Mike Will, was just showing his range and throwing out hits. And I was like, man, we need to do a Future Mike Will cover. And at that time, it was just like, well, damn, and the challenge of doing two people on the cover, it's like, yeah, one or the other, getting them both in the same room at the same time.
That's what I was going to say. I know egos got to come into play on this stuff sometimes.
But the cool thing, when you come with a concept and when you come with with the passion, and it's just not like, like a gimmick, and that's been the case each time. And I remember reaching out to Future's publicist, and that dude like flipped because it was like, hey man, I just gave Future the spill that you gave me. He was like, man, Future's never agreed to do anything that fast. He's like, he's never, like, it was like immediate, like that's like within a couple of hours, he hit me back like, hey, Future's in. Now we got to find, Mike Will, see where he at, see if they can get in the same place, because they were, both kind of traveling around, and it was like, all right, cool, we getting closer to the deadline, we got to make this happen. We pushed it to the limit, but it made sense. And it's like we had no clue at that particular time that Dirty Sprite 2
right
would be released
right
on a Friday before the Tuesday that issue was released. So no one had time, to put him on the cover, and it's like, and how appropriate was it that, Future was the one to reveal the cover on his Instagram, on the same day his album was released. And it's like, it's like I said, man, things are so layered.
Right. I got to ask you about this one, because this is the one I normally see the connection, but the Wale Sway thing, where did that come from?
Nobody saw it coming. The cool thing about that, on the tail end of that Future Mike Will issue, and man, I never even talked about this before. What sparked the inspiration was that was around the time the shootings in South Carolina, right? And it was just like, yo, and it was so late. Like, we were like literally finishing up that issue. It wasn't like we could do a story real quick. It was just like, man. And I remember, being able to squeeze something at the tail end of my editorial, like making mention of it, and I remember, my wife, setting up like, man, like, what are we going to do? And, my wife works on a magazine as well, but she was like, yo, we have to do something. Like, we all had that feeling like, man, what just happened? This cat just went in a church and started just shooting. Right. So, at that point in time, that started to trigger, some thoughts like, man, yeah, we have to do something purpose driven. I was like, yo, we definitely, hit a home run with this, Future Mike Will cover. That's like the popular cover. That's the route, in terms of just like, they got the crossover success, the Billboard cats love them, the streets love them, so now that gives us freedom to sort of, take a chance and do something that's more purpose driven. And I started to think about like, man, what are some of the different concepts that we could go ahead and move around and do for this issue? And then it started to click and things start moving together. And then I started to realize, like, hold up a second. This issue, that next issue is going to be released like the day after, the 20-year anniversary of the Million Man March. And it was just like that time. And once again, just paying attention, paying attention to the culture, paying attention to what was going on, paying attention. We had Black Lives Matter. We had like all of this, all of the police killings and people, just trying to figure out what's going on. What can we do? Something has to be done. People are rebellious. I start seeing Farrakhan making his rounds. And I was like, oh, it's about to be something going down in October. And we got an issue dropping around that same time. And that's where it started to come together. And when I was thinking about, all right, who could be a dope pair, there was a lot of different variations of a lot of people initially. But when I, ended up settling on Wale and Sway, one, Wale, man, was having a monstrous year music-wise. And
he's from D.C.
And he's from D.C. Come on. He's from D.C. He just left the White House. First Lady, had him up at the White House, talking to kids about education and, performing. And, even prior to that, when the Baltimore riots happened, he was there, boots to the ground, just walking amongst the people, talking at the schools, just, being the outspoken cat that he is. And this is after, the number one album in the country and, the big single and like all of these different things. And so it's like, all right, usually, a lot of cats, they get the success and they just sort of like get kind of quiet and they try to, do the dance,
right?
And it's like, this dude just did an album with Seinfeld. You know what I'm saying? It's like that doesn't happen. He just did a whole album with Jerry Seinfeld,
right.
So he could have totally went that mainstream route. Right. So, but to be like, to me, I was just paying attention to a lot of the things that people don't pay attention to. And if you know anything about Wale, he voices his opinion a lot about people who don't pay attention to things that he wants them to pay attention to.
Stay woke.
Right? So I was watching that and I was like, yo, he would be dope. And then I started putting it together. He is from DC. You know what I'm saying? He do come from a crazy background and, he's outspoken. He's on the ground. And then I also thought like, man, it would be dope to have a journalist be a part of this. And once again, I was thinking about Sway being from Oakland. And when you think about, when you think about Oakland, civil rights, Black Panthers, and just these movements, and these are two still relevant hip hop personalities, from two different generations, from two different coasts. Sway, done interviewed, presidents, been to the White House, and has a certain, appeal about him. So it was just like I said, a bunch of these different, layers. And then when you think about, the whole idea of, justice or else, and then, tying in the whole, Sway got the answers, playing off of that, so it was, that whole issue is so layered though. Like that issue is probably, one of my proudest bodies of work. I mean, it felt like it's a print mixtape, because everybody in that issue had something very forward thinking, purpose driven that they were talking about, but none of it was corny, none of it was preachy. Eric Thomas is one of the most powerful motivational speakers in the world. King Los is one of the most talented, MCs on the planet, and he has like an amazing vision. This dude waited forever to finally get an album released, and he calls it God Money War. When he definitely has the talent, he can make a pop album. His skills are so, like, he could do whatever he want to, but for him to feel like, no, I got to do this purpose driven, like I feel something in me, I have to do this type of project. I was paying attention to that, and so to bring him in with his perspective, and then Pharoah Monch, he's always been like just a layered, deep dude.
Right.
So like I said, just as a body of work, I just thought it was so awesome, to be able to put that together and to see, some of my peers, doing some of the same. It was exciting to see, the Questlove, Black Thought, cover over at Ebony. Once again, shout out to, Ebony Magazine and Kieran and like all of the amazing things that they're doing. So, like I said, there's so many layers, man.
Definitely, man. You've been documenting the culture for a while now, so you've seen people come, seen people go. This is our last episode of the year, so I was wondering, like, what artist are you paying attention to in 2016? Not just for who you might feature on the magazine or on the website, but just in your own personal listening time.
Wow, it's funny that you say that. I've been having to struggle. I've been struggling, lately. I definitely been listening to a lot of music. Not one artist in particular, not one even album, in particular. The thing that interests me so much more at this point in time is the individuals. I'm so much more. I had a conversation, a couple months ago with Rob Markman, another,
Harris alumni,
Harris alum, and brilliant,
everywhere,
brilliant journalist. I've been a fan of his work for quite some time, and this is our first time talking a couple months ago after the Sway Wale cover dropped, and we had an interesting conversation, and I needed it so much at that time because it's like his focus right now, his interest right now, he's so passionate about the music, and it's definitely a certain level of familiarity that comes with that, because it's like I remember being that, in that space to where it was just like, man, just being so focused on the music, that's all that really mattered. Why aren't these voices being heard? Why aren't these songs being heard? Why people aren't getting them a shot? Why they're not on the cover of magazines and getting the endorsement deals, et cetera, et cetera. And for me, it's like I still appreciate and love listening to the music. I really can appreciate streaming and just letting, different tracks, run, and having the ability to, cut off the fat that much more and only listen to the songs that you really like, is just, pretty exciting. So, the playlist that I be having, arranged from, the Futures to the Big Seans, to the Dej Loafs to the Scarfaces, it's exciting, to me to have that range, but it's like I'm so much more interested in having these conversations, with people being like, man, where did I even come from? What's the inspiration? Mm-hmm. It's like, to me, that's like so exciting. And that's, in this new issue, another one of the cats that we got in there is Combat Jack. When I discovered Combat Jack show, at first I'm like, man, I ain't about to listen to no podcast. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. So I'm supposed to just listen. Like, and I'm looking at this dude's like archive. I'm like, man, he got some interviews for 2.5 hours and 3 hours. I'm like, man, there's no way that I'm just gonna listen to some cats talking about whatever. I can't even see him at that. Man, whatever. And I discovered him, by, looking for content on Scarface. Scarface is, my favorite rapper of all time. And so, it was around that time where he was really just working on, getting deeply rooted together. He was releasing music here and there, and it was just like, man, when is the damn whole thing gonna drop though? Come on, man. Like, what's up, Face? I need the whole album like right now. I need it right now. Because he's one of those type of artists that give you that soul food, like, right? So I remember just being in a space where I just wanted to, just hear some, some more dialogue about what this project was gonna be like and what he's been up to. I hadn't seen him in a while, and I stumbled upon this Combat Jack interview, and I'm like, damn, all right, let me go ahead and listen to this damn thing. And it was just like the most fulfilling, entertaining interview. And I'm like, hold up, I've been following this dude since 86, 87, and I've interviewed him multiple times, and I've just like I'm thinking I know almost everything about Brad Jordan,
right? And
it was just so many other different layers that Combat Jack exposed, and I was like, yo, this is dope. So man, let me listen to another one. Whoa, that was crazy. Let me listen to another one. Man, that was nuts. And it just lets me know, like, man, we got so much more content to bring to the table, even for our architects that, been around forever, that we've seen interviewed a million times. Like, it's still so many questions that were never asked.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, man, Brandon, let's go ahead and, take B.O.B. and Ty Dolla $ign to the record store. Let's just hear some of these organic conversations that they have discovering records that they never seen before. And let's see what they talk about when they see records that they're familiar with and how they, oh, yeah, well, you don't know what that is? That's such and such cousin. Well, dude, that's dope, to be able to experience that firsthand, right? And you've seen all them cats that came through, Patchwork for the 10th anniversary. Yeah. And how this common thread of like, man, what this place meant, to the culture, and how many careers were born, out of this place. It's not just a place to go make music, but it's just a culture that they established there. And it's just like, we need to know about that. Like, we need to know, about like Jason Jeter working there, meeting T.I. there. We need to know about, those early days of, David Banner's, not being able to get front of the money for his budget, so he's, paying Curtis on credit, for sessions, and it's like, Dungeon Fam. Like, we need to know these things, and I think like for us, like that's our time. I mean, this is our chapter to do that. Let the bloggers blog and let them go ahead and do this, trending topic stuff, man. But I'm like, man, let's put together this information. Let's document our culture the right way.
Most definitely, man. So Respect 25th issue. By the time you hear this, it will be on newsstands everywhere. Tupac on the gold cover.
Yes, sir.
Make sure y'all pick it up. What's the respect-mag.com?
Respect-mag.com. And also, once again, shout out to Reggie Hawkins and my man Torre. They pretty much, gave some, great commentary on, some of the cover artists, and the cover feature And hopefully we're able to sit down soon and
the
have
Black Torre.
The Black Torre. Man, both Torres are black, man. What you trying to say, man? The rapper Torre. The rapper Torre. And look out for his new projects coming out. And he actually has a
his show is dope.
Yeah, he has an original song that he did, for this album too. I mean, for this for this issue. We got a mixtape that's coming, and so yeah, man. It's like we're really excited. But yeah, respect. -mag, respect-mag.com is where y'all can go ahead and check us out in the digital world. But yeah, get to those newsstands. Pick up and touch. This issue is some amazing things in there that you want to hold on to and keep.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, we appreciate y'all listening. Hopefully everybody has a happy holiday. Make sure you catch us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and everywhere else you get your podcasts and internet radio. And we will see you next year.
That's right. Appreciate y'all, man.